My name is Miriam. I am 24 years old now, but my story begins a few years back when I was living a completely different life. I want to share with you how one night changed everything for me. But before we continue, please let me know where you're listening from. It would be nice to feel closer, even if we're physically apart. Also, don't forget to like. It will help this video to reach so many people who need to listen to this testimony. And leave a comment, share your thoughts about this near-death experience testimony. Let's have a fair and open discussion so we can learn from each other here on this channel. And don't forget to subscribe for more of this content coming your way. Enjoy listening. I never cared about God or religion, not even a little bit. My parents split up when I was young, and neither of them had time for me. Dad was always working, and Mom had her own problems. No one ever took me to church or talked to me about Jesus or the Bible. By the time I was 18, I was already drinking heavily. Alcohol became my friend, my comfort, my escape. It started with weekend parties, then became weekday drinks too. Soon I was drinking almost every day. My friends were just like me, lost, broken people looking for a good time. We thought we were having fun, but we were just hiding from our pain. Every weekend was the same. Get dressed up, go to the club, drink until I couldn't feel anymore, wake up with a hangover, repeat. I worked at a small coffee shop during the day, but my real life happened at night. The loud music, the dancing, the drinks, that's what I lived for. That's what made me feel alive, or so I thought. You only live once, my friends would say, as they handed me another shot. I believed them. I thought this was all life had to offer. Temporary happiness in a bottle, fleeting connections with strangers in dark clubs. No one ever told me there could be more to life than this. No one ever showed me a different way. It was a Friday night, just like any other. My friends and I went to our favorite club downtown. The music was loud, the lights were flashing, and the drinks were flowing. I had already downed several shots of vodka and was feeling that familiar buzz. Another round. I shouted over the music, waving at the bartender. My friends cheered. This was our ritual. This was our life. As the night went on, I kept drinking. 1 shot, 2 shots, 3 shots, more. The room started spinning, but I didn't care. I was used to this feeling. I welcomed it. Then something strange happened. My chest started to hurt. At first I thought it was nothing. Maybe I had danced too hard or the alcohol was hitting me differently than usual. But then the pain got worse. It felt like someone was squeezing my heart. I don't feel good, I mumbled to my friend Tasha, but she was busy talking to some guy and didn't hear me. I stumbled toward the bathroom, thinking maybe I just needed to splash some water on my face. But I never made it there. The pain in my chest became unbearable. The last thing I remember is falling to the floor, the colored lights of the club swirling above me, and someone screaming. Then darkness. I don't know how to explain what happened next. It wasn't like dreaming. It was more real than anything I had ever experienced before. First, there was this bright, warm light. It felt like being wrapped in the softest blanket on a cold day. I felt peace like I had never known before. Then I saw him. I had never been religious, never gone to church, but somehow, I knew immediately who he was. Jesus was standing before me, his eyes filled with love, but also deep sadness. Miriam, he said, and his voice seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere at once. This is not your time yet, but I want you to see where your path is leading you. Suddenly, the warm light disappeared, and I felt intense heat. Not the pleasant warmth of a summer day or a cozy fireplace, but a scorching, unbearable heat that seemed to burn from the inside out. I looked down and saw an abyss. The heat was coming from there, and I heard sounds, terrible sounds of suffering and despair, screams and cries that made my blood freeze despite the heat. Look, Miriam, Jesus said, his voice heavy with sorrow. This is the reality many souls face. I saw people, countless people, in that terrible place. They were suffering, burning, but not being consumed. Their faces were twisted in agony. Why are they here? I asked, my voice barely a whisper. Each by their own choice, Jesus replied. Some through pride, some through hatred, some through greed, and many, like you, were heading through the constant choice of temporary pleasures over eternal joy. through running away from the love I offered them. He pointed to one section of the abyss, and I saw people who looked just like me, young, confused souls, who had spent their lives chasing after the wrong things, numbing their pain with substances rather than healing it with love. If not for my mercy, if this had truly been your time, this would have been your fate, Jesus said, not because I desire it, but because this is the natural end of a path away from love, away from me. I felt terror like I had never known before, not just fear for myself, but heartbreak for all those souls. But why am I seeing this? I asked. Why show me if it's not my time? Jesus looked at me, and his eyes were filled with such love that it almost hurt to see it. Because I love you, Miriam. I have always loved you even when you didn't know me, and I want you to go back and share what you've seen. There are others, just like you were, who need to hear this, who need to know there's another way. I gasped for air, my eyes flying open. I was on the floor of the club, paramedics leaning over me. My friends were standing nearby, their faces pale with fear. She's back, one paramedic said to the other. Blood pressure stabilizing. I later learned that I had experienced alcohol poisoning combined with a panic attack. My heart had temporarily stopped. Clinically, I had died for about 2 minutes before they brought me back. But I knew it was more than that. What I had seen, what I had felt, it wasn't just a hallucination or a dream. It was real. Jesus was real. Heaven was real. And so was hell. They took me to the hospital, where I spent the night. The doctors told me I was lucky to be alive. They had no idea how true that was. As I lay in that hospital bed, I couldn't stop thinking about what I had seen. The faces of those souls in that terrible place haunted me, and Jesus' words echoed in my mind. Share what you've seen. When I was released from the hospital the next day, I knew I couldn't go back to my old life. Something fundamental had shifted inside me. The desire for alcohol, for partying, for that whole lifestyle. It was just gone, replaced by something else. A desire to know more about Jesus, about God, about this love I had felt so briefly but so powerfully. My friends thought I had lost my mind. When I told them what happened, they laughed it off. It was just the alcohol playing tricks on your brain, Tasha said. Give it a week, you'll be back to normal. But I wasn't. I couldn't be. How could I go back to living for Friday nights when I had glimpsed eternity? I started reading the Bible. I found a small church near my apartment and started attending services. The pastor there, a kind older man named David, took time to answer my questions and guide me through the basics of faith. It wasn't easy. There were nights I lay awake, craving a drink so badly my whole body shook. There were days I wanted to call my old friends, to fall back into familiar patterns. But then I would remember what I had seen, and I found the strength to resist. Slowly, things began to change. I started to feel a peace I had never known before. The hole inside me that I had tried to fill with alcohol and parties began to fill with something else, with love, with purpose, with faith. I quit my job at the coffee shop and found work at a local community center. I started volunteering at a shelter for women recovering from addiction. For the first time in my life, I felt like I was doing something that mattered. 6 months after my experience, I was sitting in church when I felt it, a clear, undeniable call. I needed to share my story more widely, not just with the women at the shelter, not just with the people at my church, but with as many people as possible. I'm not a preacher, I told Pastor David when I shared this feeling with him. I barely know the Bible yet. Who would listen to me? He smiled gently. Miriam, sometimes the most powerful sermons come from the most unlikely preachers. Your story is your sermon. Your life is your testimony. With his encouragement, I started speaking at youth groups, at recovery meetings, at small gatherings in people's homes. I told them about my old life, the emptiness, the searching. I told them about that night at the club, about what I saw and heard. And I told them about my new life, the struggles, yes, but also the joy, the peace, the purpose. Some people dismissed me, of course. They thought I was crazy or making it all up. But others, oh, the others. I would see it in their eyes, that moment of recognition, that spark of hope. People who had been where I was, who were feeling what I had felt. They heard my story, and something inside them stirred. A young woman named Abby approached me after one of my talks. She had been drinking heavily since she was 15, had tried to quit multiple times but always failed. "I want what you have," she said, tears streaming down her face. "I want to be free." I hugged her tight. "You can be," I whispered. "He loves you just as much as he loves me." Abby has been sober for 3 months now. She comes to church with me every Sunday. It's been 2 years since that night at the club. 2 years since I died and came back. 2 years since Jesus showed me what could have been and gave me a second chance. I'm not perfect. I still struggle sometimes. There are days when the old cravings come back, when I think about how easy it would be to just go back to my old ways. But then I remember what I saw, what I felt, and I find the strength to keep going. I speak regularly now at churches, schools, recovery programs. Anywhere they'll have me, I tell my story over and over, hoping that each time it reaches someone who needs to hear it. Some people call me a preacher. I don't know about. I'm just a girl who was lost and then found, who was given a glimpse of what waits beyond this life and who can't keep silent about it. If you're listening to this and you're where I was, lost, empty, trying to fill the void with things that never quite satisfy, I want you to know something. You are loved, more deeply, more completely, more perfectly than you can possibly imagine. You don't have to have a near-death experience like I did to change your life. You don't have to see hell to choose heaven. You just have to be willing to take that first step, to reach out your hand and say, "I need help. I need something more." Jesus told me to share what I had seen, to save as many as I could. So that's what I'm doing. That's what I'll keep doing for as long as I have breath in my lungs. Because the truth is, we're all given a limited time here. We all have to make choices about how we live and what we live. And those choices matter, not just for now, but for eternity. I chose wrong for a long time. I was heading down a path that would have led to unimaginable suffering, but I was given another chance, and I chose differently. You can too. That's the message Jesus wanted me to share. That's the testimony he gave me to tell. And if it reaches even one person, if it saves even one soul from what I almost experienced, then every moment of my old life was worth it, because it led me here, to this moment, to this message, to you. The choice is yours now. What will you do with it? Thank you for listening to my testimony. My prayer for you is that you will live long and prosper. Please like this video and subscribe for more of this content coming your way.